Welcome to the podcast. I am Jerry Matthias.
I'm Andy Appleby.
I realized recently listening back to an episode I've gone away from introducing us. I've just been operating on the assumption that people are with us now. They know who we are.
And now that we're famous,
yes,
we're just assuming that people know who we are.
Yes, but I should leave some room for those who are newcomers, for those who are getting that awesome word of mouth that you've got to check out this podcast.
The water cooler talk about us and our podcast.
Yeah, and people are coming in going, okay, there's probably a Jeremy and probably an Andy.
Right, but I don't know which one's which. Yeah. A lot of confusion.
Yeah, so now they know.
The best part would be if neither one of our names were Jeremy and Andy, and it was just that was just the name of our podcast.
That's right.
We just randomly chose those names.
Yeah. Which, here we are on year 2.
Yeah.
And that name has sort of just stuck, for lack of a better one. And,
because we just gave up on trying to come up. What did I say at one point, like the Take Two podcast or something like that?
Which I still like. And, there's kind of running joke of like several names that we'll refer to it as that never took and
didn't quite land.
Yeah, just the 2GM, the Take Two.
Yeah,
Jeremy and Andy talk.
Some inside jokes.
Yeah. So last time that we were here,
I had a blast last time.
Not even a week ago, we had what I felt like was my favorite episode that we've done yet.
It was really fun.
We talked all about our favorites of 2023.
When I re-listened to it, I got so riled up when I started talking about the Flash. It was like a grudge match between me and the Flash. I didn't even mean to. It just came out.
Yeah, well, it just wasn't a good movie.
I stand by what I said.
Yeah,
I just didn't realize I got so animated.
What's funny is I watched The Flash in theater, and
I'm sorry.
I walked out, and I just sort of went, meh. Because I think I went in expecting meh.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we were talking about it, and you were so riled up, and everything that you were saying about it, I was like, that's true. That's accurate. And then it was at that point that I was like, man, yeah, I guess I also hated that movie.
See, I convinced you. My passion is contagious.
Yeah.
No, that was such a fun episode.
Yeah. So today, our objective is, rather than looking back, is to look ahead.
Onward and upward.
The slate of movies for 2024.
Yeah.
Talk about what gets us excited.
Mm-hmm.
And just some other odds and ends about movie watching.
Sure.
In 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I'm not a New Year's resolutions guy.
Same.
And I'm still not. I thought through several, should I have some movie watching resolutions? Maybe I'll commit to watching a certain number, or I'll get to the theater once a week or something. Yeah. And in the end, I just said, you know what? No, I'm going to
just keep doing what you're doing, because you killed it last year. What'd you say? 68 movies, 69 movies,
which I'm at 70 now. because I filled in 2 more. So. I'm just going to continue to watch movies as I enjoy them.
Same.
And I don't want any artificial pressures of, I said I've got to do this.
Right.
And, I think I am motivated already by this podcast to branch out a little more.
It keeps me accountable for having to go to the movies.
I think there will be things I see that I wouldn't normally. Last year's example of that was the Hunger Games movie. And I wasn't disappointed that I saw it. It was a pretty good movie.
It was a solid movie.
And so, we'll talk about it. There's some movies I'm going to mention that I definitely will not be seeing from this year, but there's some that I'll probably see, and maybe I wouldn't have if we didn't have a podcast where we could likely talk about it.
That's what got me through my marathon. I was having a good time, and I knew I still needed to see Ferrari. I saw 3 movies in one day, like you did. And for a split second, I almost thought about going home and just not going to see Ferrari. But then the podcast motivated me, because I wanted to have a good, a big array of movies to choose from for my 2023 list, which turns out Ferrari didn't make that list. But I'm still glad I went. But the podcast, to your point, the podcast motivated me to stick it out and go.
Yeah. Even if a movie doesn't make it, you still feel better just knowing that you checked it off.
I gave it a shot. And I'm glad I watched it. I'm just going to start doing that all the time.
Boy, I hope so. Can I just say, I was thinking back over Ferrari, and I'm still blown away that it wasn't like a key point that it showed in the previews, and I think he does it twice in the movie, where he makes the 2 objects cannot occupy the same space. And I thought that was going to be this giant metaphor for his 2 relationships that were going on.
No.
And it didn't. And I thought that was the most obvious movie. When I saw the preview, I said, that's what the movie's going to be about. Yeah. It's going to be about the 2 relationships, and they can't occupy the same space. Nope. It really had nothing to do with any of it.
It didn't. And I listened to our 2023 episode, and, I liked Ferrari. Like, we kind of glossed over it kind of quickly because there were just a lot of other movies we want to talk about, but it was a good movie. Yeah. And I just am being stupid. I won't do that voice all the time, I promise.
I mean, I'm going to encourage it.
You are? Okay, good. Yeah. That'll just be my gimmick for 2024.
Perfect. So I was mentioning to you just before we started filming that typically in a year I have a certain pattern, sort of an ebb and flow of movie watching patterns. And one of them is that as we get later in a calendar year, I really get consumed with the watching of movies from that year.
You want to fill in all the...
Yeah, I want to fill in all my gaps. And so for the past 3 months probably,
that's been
I almost don't watch movies if they aren't 2023 movies. I'm like, I've got to get through 2023 movies. And so I'm just all about watching movies from that year. And then it filters a little more into January because there's still movies that we've mentioned, that came out late December or that I'm still checking off or just getting to streaming, so it's just now available to me, that sort of thing. And it'll happen a little bit again right before the Academy Awards if there's a movie that's heavily nominated and I'm like, well, I didn't see that. I need to make sure.
And sometimes it'll get that last minute theater push.
Yeah. I'm kind of hoping that will be the case because there's a couple movies I wanted to see that just didn't come to theaters
around here.
Zone of Interest didn't come around here.
My number
American Fiction is not around here for some reason. And these are two movies that I was really anticipating.
Same. And I really hope maybe if they do get those big Academy Award nominations, they'll get thrown into the theater.
Yeah. But after that, after we get through about January, and aside from that little push before the Oscars, I kind of I make a shift to watching old movies. And by old movies, I mean a lot of times rewatching favorites of mine. Sometimes I go back and rewatch movies that are some of my favorites, and I'm like, it's really illuminating. Like, man, I haven't watched anything good for months that's as good as this.
It's a good time to go back and revisit favorites.
Sometimes it helps you realize, there were some really good things this year because they kind of hold up. But and so I'm kind of looking forward to that because I start to think about all the movies I haven't watched in a long time.
Well, in January is more of definitely a lesser time for theatrical releases, and the quality's typically not quite as good. So
and then I have to say there's a stretch when the NBA playoffs begin where I'm not movie watching much at all. I'm just watching basketball every night because I've decided in my life there's going to be two hobbies that I really enjoy, and that's going to be NBA basketball and movies. There's, when I was in my 20s, I kept up with a lot of sports. For example, tomorrow night is the college national championship game, and Michigan is playing in the national championship game. I have been a Michigan fan my whole life, and in my 20s, I watched Michigan football all the time. And here I am going I'm pretty excited that Michigan's there, but I haven't watched a Michigan game all year. I couldn't tell you a player on the team. So will I get excited if they win? Yes, but
are you going to devote your time to watching it?
I mean, it's sort of like a bandwagon thing at this point. I guess you can say that. Where maybe I'll watch that game tomorrow that I wouldn't have watched if Michigan wasn't in it, and I'll celebrate if Michigan wins. Be like, yeah, my team won, but it's more of this team I invested in years ago for a long time, and I haven't recently. NBA I still keep up with. So that said, I'm going to put this out right off the bat that the thing I'm most looking forward to watching this year is the Boston Celtics win an NBA title. Which obviously I can't know that's going to happen, but they're the best team in the NBA right now. There's a good chance of it happening. And so when I think of what I'm looking forward to watching in 2024, at the top of my list is my sports team winning a championship. And then all these movies will follow thereafter. I think if there's one thing that people are learning I'm a master at, it's the preamble. It's all the build up to the thing we're supposed to be talking about.
It's okay.
I don't know if you have any preamble that you want to discuss before we start jumping into these movies.
In if you want.
I also don't know. Again, we come in having done some of our own background work, but usually not comparing notes until we get in here. So this is all very genuine.
It is. I don't think we've ever. I think on our first episode, we kind of compared some notes, or you kind of had a format. And ever since then, we just wing it, and you'd never know because we're so good at this.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know if you have a way that you structured yours. Literally, I sort of went through. My way of researching this was I Wikipedia the year in movies, and it lays it out the release dates, and I just went down the calendar and I marked what I'm looking forward to by date, and then I went after each one. I kind of made a note about each one, and I wrote an anticipation level. And so, if I need to go, these are my top ones, I can, because I numbered them. But I also can go numerically or just kind of jump around categorically. I wasn't sure how to do it.
And I'm not sure either. What I did is I just started without looking up anything. I wrote down some movies I knew were coming out in 2024. Then I went back and filled in some gaps. I don't have my list isn't separated, but I could separate it because I do have some, like you said, there's definitely my main eventers. And then there's some that I'm looking forward to almost from like they almost qualify as like guilty pleasure or what I think will be like guilty pleasure type movies. And then I have some that it's like I'm cautiously optimistic about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've got a few of those too.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do it then. Let's start with our heavy hitters.
Okay.
Because that's what the people want,
Okay.
I think. And I would love to cede the floor to you and know what where you want to start with heavy hitters.
I'm just going to go with the movie that, if it's okay with you, that I think I'm most excited for 2024.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to do a little bit of preamble myself. This is an interesting year for me because this is the first year in a really long time where superhero movies, my interest is almost non-existent. So this is the first time in years where a superhero movie hasn't cracked my list of, what a top 5, top 3, whatever, New Avengers is coming out. New Spider-Man is coming out. I'm not excited about any superhero movies. I'm mildly excited about a superhero movie coming out this year, but it's the first year in a long time where they have just really been low on my priority list.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start out by saying that the movie I believe that I'm most excited for this year is Furiosa.
All right.
The Mad Max prequel. And I have said a lot of negative things on here about prequels and unnecessary sequels and continuing franchises for no reason at all. And the last thing I want is for any of our listeners to think I'm a hypocrite. But the Mad Max series is, the most recent one was Mad Max Fury Road, 2015. Those movies are so unlike anything else. And that Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron one was incredible and visually amazing. And this, one of the highest, how did they do this factors I've ever seen in a movie. Like, how did they film this movie? I don't know. And so they've got my interest. Super interested. I want to be back in this world that they created. It's in a pre-existing franchise that goes way back with Mel Gibson. Yeah. Then it came back with Tom Hardy, I love Tom Hardy. He's awesome. And I just liked being in that world. It's weird. It's visually exciting to look at. Even though Tom Hardy, does he speak at all in Fury Road?
He's got very few.
I mean, it's very, very limited.
One of his only lines is near the end of the movie where he says, "My name is Max."
Yes. But I think he's really good in that movie. Now, he's not in this new one because it's a prequel, but I don't know. It just has my interest. This is a world I want to revisit. Whereas so many movies you go, I don't care. I don't care about these characters. I don't care about this world. I don't care about this universe they've created. I do care about this one. And I'm super excited for it.
Yeah. I think we talked about it on here before, but if we haven't, that's okay. We can mention it again. It was either on here or I was listening to it somewhere else where they talked about it almost feels like the era of the movie star driving box office success is done, and people are actually more drawn to filmmakers, which is what we talked about this past year, 2023, we refer to it as the year of Nolan, Scorsese,
Fincher. We said that so many times, yeah.
And, I could look at this and go, I love Mad Max, but, did I really need a Furiosa prequel? No. It doesn't matter because it's George Miller, and George Miller I trust. And there's so many movies on here where my first note was the filmmaker, I'm in.
I know. I literally have several of those. Yeah, and like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I don't like these unnecessary sequels, requels, prequels, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But there's always exceptions, and to me, this is an exception. And probably in years past, something like this wouldn't have been my number one. But like I said, now I'm kind of in a whole different place than I've been in the past, where the MCU is no longer the huge draw for me. The DCU is dead to me. I just don't have that interest. So that does make room for something like this.
Yeah.
To creep up. Now, and keep in mind, this is not us saying this is what I think is going to be the best movie.
Right.
This is just, I'm really curious to see them go back into this world. George Miller obviously loves this world because this is like his, fifth Mad Max movie?
Yeah, first one without the character of Max.
Yeah. Yep.
Presumably.
Yeah. It's called, what is it, like Furiosa, a Mad Max story or
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's got me. It's got my interest. I want to see it. I guarantee this will be one I see in IMAX.
Yes.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. That one's, it was near the top of my list too. It's tied.
I'm positive I know what your number one is.
Probably. So we might as well go ahead and go there. Though that honestly, this one was tied for my number one because the reality is, as much they're both sequels.
Yes.
One's a prequel, one's a sequel.
Yeah.
As much as I have praised the one I'm going to talk about, I probably do actually like Mad Max Fury Road even better than that movie. So I might be more excited for Furiosa. But the one that I'm talking about is Dune Part 2.
The long-awaited Dune Part 2.
Long-awaited. Part 2 was supposed to come out right at my birthday last year, and I was
know you were excited.
Perfect timing. My birthday, I'm going to go see this movie, and then they pushed it back. But so I'm still excited for Part 2. And again, the thing about this is it's still mostly because I trust Denis Villeneuve. Even as I watch previews, I'm like, yeah, it looks cool, but like it's kind of like the first one. The first one, I had no connection to Dune, and I was like, whatever, yeah, it kind of looks cool, sci-fi, I don't know. But because I trust Denis Villeneuve, I want to go see it. And then I went and watched it, was blown away.
It's really good.
The sequel, I'm also kind of watching the previews and be like, whatever. But I just know when I get there, he's just going to put me in this atmosphere. Yeah. He's so good at pacing and stuff, and I'm just going to get swept up into it. And so it's again, even more so than just I like Dune Part 1, I still just trust the filmmaker.
I would agree with that completely. And it's another example of like, I just want to be back in this world. It's different and it's strange and it's visually compelling. And, we just talked about how maybe actors aren't driving it as much, but like I saw the trailer, I think all three of the movies I went to see a couple weeks ago in the theater, and they list the actors, and it literally takes up like the whole screen. It's a murderer's row of good actors, and it's got a lot of expectation from me.
Yeah, which probably should go along hand in hand with the whole filmmakers driving it thing, because the other thing we're seeing is actors are lining up to work with good filmmakers. All the movies that we talked about from last year, I mean, maybe the exception of The Killer, which didn't have as many recognizable names.
Right.
But between Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, a lot of great actors.
Oh, yeah.
Or just anybody the director could have wanted for the part.
Yeah.
And obviously the same for Dune.
Right.
All right, you got a next one?
I would go Dune 2 also.
Okay.
I don't have a lot to add other than, kind of to touch on your point. It's funny because I have just zero connection to the original Dune. I don't even know. I mean, it's 80s, 80 something or other. Just no strong connection to that. And honestly, I was thinking back when Dune Part 1 came out, I don't remember being excited for that.
Yeah.
I knew it was it wasn't like I was like, ugh, but I just wasn't. And then I saw it, and you kind of put yourself in that world, and the next thing you know, you're super invested. So, same thing. And I'm like you. It's kind of like we talked about on our best of list. There's a Scorsese movie or a Nolan movie, and you just kind of go, oh, this is going to be good. Mm-hmm. And then, you go, and you have to find out if your expectations are met. We just kind of take it for granted sometimes that something is going to be good. And so then you go and you get that great experience where you have your high expectations and the movie hopefully matches those.
Right.
And it's a movie where, we live in the era where so many movies are so predictable. Stuff like, especially Dune 2, where you go like, I'm not sure where this is going.
Yeah.
I don't know how this is all going to end or who's going to live or who's not or, so I'm excited about that.
But honestly, I don't even know if Timothée Chalamet's character, Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
I don't know if he's going to be a traditional hero.
Yeah. And it doesn't, because like we talked about a lot in the pod last year, a lot of these great filmmakers that we're seeing, they don't follow the rules or the cliches. So I'm excited for that. And that's going to be another one I think is going to be an awesome IMAX movie.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that.
For sure. I did want to mention, because I wrote these down, just the dates of these movies coming out.
Oh, yeah.
So Furiosa is May 24th.
Yes.
Dune is March 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll, just a couple months away.
Yeah, it's getting here pretty quickly.
All right. My next one, speaking of superhero movies, it's the top superhero movie on my list. That is Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
I admit it. I'm a Deadpool fan.
Yeah.
I love the franchise. I think it's generally hilarious. I like Ryan Reynolds just in general, and I think Deadpool is the perfect
vehicle for him.
Reynolds.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited that he's teaming up with Wolverine.
Yes.
I think in large part it's enhanced knowing that the two actors are friends in real life.
Yes.
And they're getting together, just going to have fun together on set. I think Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, honestly, like, he's got one great movie in Logan.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a couple of the X-Men movies are really solid.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a lot of bad ones.
A lot of bad ones, yeah.
And
like
so
the solo Wolverine movies have all been disappointing.
Yes. So I'm really excited. Like, I hope that this is the one where we'll look back and go, Hugh Jackman had a great dramatic Wolverine movie in Logan. He had a great, really fun Wolverine movie in Deadpool 3.
Yeah.
And it'll be the perfect time to go, okay, now we're actually completely closing the book
Yep.
on Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Yep.
And then, it's just a fun way for, I think this is Marvel's first real integration of like X-Men into the Marvel universe, even though Deadpool's even kind of outside them, the MCU, but just the opening up of characters being able to overlap.
Yep.
I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go ahead and jump in because that's my next one too. And after I just said that I'm not excited about superhero movies, this is the only superhero movie that I'm excited about for this year. And now I get to come at it from a different angle because before where it was like, I know Marvel's going to come out with a movie and I know, like when Infinity War was coming out, I had no doubt that movie was going to be awesome.
Yeah.
At least for me, for what I wanted. And it was, and beyond that actually. So now I'm coming at it from like can this kind of rein the ship back in? Because I feel like the ship's kind of drifted off course. So now I have that, that little bit of trepidation, but also like I really hope this is the one where everyone goes, okay, Marvel is, I don't know what happened with those last few movies. Now we're back on track.
Yeah.
So I've got the anticipation plus the hope that it can kind of get things back on course a little bit. So, and it's the same thing where it's just like, look, this movie's going to have to work really hard to not be funny and entertaining because Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman obviously love each other in real life. They've got a great natural. I've seen just TikToks they make and all these different things where it's like these guys just really click together. I almost hate to say this because this has really gone off the deep end too, but I am kind of looking forward to seeing if they throw out any surprises and stuff like that, even though that's almost become a bore at this point with Marvel, or they have a surprise and then it leads to nothing. So a lot of anticipation and a lot of hope from my end that this will kind of get things back moving in a good direction.
Yeah. All right.
What is that? That's a May.
That is.
Or is it no July now?
July 26th.
They've shuffled things around so many times I can't keep track.
Yeah.
And also now the MCU took their first big box office loss with the Marvels. I just am anticipating too, just to see how this does from a box office perspective.
Yeah. Well, those three that we've talked about now, Furiosa,
Dune 2,
Deadpool 3. Deadpool 3 were my top ones. They were kind of tied at the top.
Yeah.
So this is one notch below, but still something
I would
I'm
agree with
excited
that.
About. My next one is the next installment in the Planet of the Apes movies, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
This one is one that I am.
Because you love
such
those.
a big fan.
Yes, you love
of
those.
the trilogy. I'm nervous because I thought, what a great way to end it. They made a great trilogy.
Yep. And
the
now
Caesar character that we followed has passed, and maybe we just need to leave it alone. Maybe we don't need to do it. Matt Reeves was the director of the last two. He's out.
Yep.
New guy in. New lead character for the franchise. And so there's a lot of I don't know. But that being said, it's been a great trilogy. Maybe whoever's kind of shepherding it is going to make sure it's going in the right direction. The previews look good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot.
Willing to
it
give
could
it, yeah.
very well be that it maintains the same level. I know, I really liked the first one, Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
And then they got a new director, and I was like, oh, new director, how's this going to go?
And it
Matt
was
Reeves
so good.
Took it even higher.
So good.
To what is actually my favorite installment, in the second one.
Yeah.
And so
what is the name of that one?
Dawn
of the Planet of the Apes.
And so I'm like, it's handed the baton off before and worked out. So maybe I just need to have a little more faith that they can hand off the baton and it will continue to be a good franchise. Because, like I said, I think they're 3 for 3.
Oh, I agree.
And so the only fear with the fourth one is just don't overdo it.
Yep.
It's not because of anything they've done. It's more of what I'm afraid of happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything you say. And that's actually, I could go ahead and put it next on mine too. It was that and another one that was neck and neck, but I'll go ahead and put that one the same way. And again, not to be repetitive, but this is a world I like to be in. Do you know what I mean by that? It's like some movies Aquaman. I don't care about that world. I don't want to be in that world. I'm not interested in any of the characters, the settings, the visuals, nothing. Dune or Furiosa or Planet of the Apes. I like being in that world. And I'm not really a special effects guy. Like, it takes more than... But these movies look incredible. Or, the previous ones did. I assume this one will also, if not better. So, same way, cautiously optimistic. I hope it's not one of those movies where we're talking about going, man, they had such a good thing. Yeah. Why did they jump back into that world? But I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've had a couple times now where we've had the same one, so I keep introducing them. Why don't you give us your next one?
So, this whole list it makes me feel like I'm contradicting everything I've said on past podcasts. Because one movie I am looking forward to, it's really weird that there's 2 prequels on my list. I am cautiously optimistic about A Quiet Place. What is it called? Quiet Place Day 1.
Okay.
So we're jumping back into the Quiet Place universe, which again is a universe I like. I like inhabiting that universe. I think the first Quiet Place was a movie that really snuck up on me. I didn't really know much about it, and I remember reading the box office results for that weekend, and that movie opened really big, and I was like, whoa. And I looked, and it was getting good reviews. I went to see it. I loved it. I was a big fan. I thought John Krasinski, who directed it and acts in it, did an amazing job. So I was invested. I thought the second one was good.
I did too.
I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm excited, cautiously optimistic to jump back into that world, see if there's more story to tell. Krasinski, I don't think, is directing this one.
No, I think
he's involved. I think he's like the producer or something. But he does. It seems to me like it's one of those franchises where Krasinski really seems to be proud of that. He really likes that world. So I hope he has enough influence to kind of guide it in the right direction. So a cautiously optimistic one, but I'm interested to see what they can do with that.
Yeah. It's a perfect pairing, you're right, with the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movies, because it's again a franchise that hasn't had a miss, and the caution is like, just don't go
the well too many times. Yeah.
So I had this one on a list of movies that I'm like, I'm anxious to hear what the response is.
Okay.
And I'm hoping it's positive. If it's positive, then I'll be like, okay, cool, I'm in. Mm-hmm. But if it's negative, I'll be like, I knew it.
Probably take a pass.
So
yeah.
It's on my sort of like my reservation list for me. Because the other thing about it is, like we said, some of these things are going to be contradictory, because in large part, when you're doing things you're most anticipating, it's going to largely be franchises and things that have brand recognition, because
yes.
How can you decide about something you have no information about? And so, as much as we're going to badmouth a lot of franchises and sequels and prequels for being too much, it's what you're going to know to look for.
Exactly.
So, of course, it's going to come across like a lot of contradiction. And I'm kind of a contradiction, because here I am going like, hey, I love Mad Max, so even though I don't love prequels, give me the Furiosa movie. But with this one, I'm going, hey, I like the Quiet Place movies. I don't know about a prequel. So I'm more reserved on that one for whatever reason. And maybe, again, the Mad Max one is more about George Miller being at the helm. I think if it was anybody else other than George Miller, if it was like somebody else is going to do a Furiosa prequel, I'd be like, no, this just makes me mad.
Very well said. That's exactly right. It's because it's like I said, George Miller is stuck with this. He stops occasionally to do Babe.
Yeah.
Like, his resume is insane. It's like Mad Max, Babe, Lorenzo's Oil, Babe 2, Mad Max.
Didn't he do Happy Feet or something random like that?
He either directed it or wrote it or produced it or all the above.
It's
the strangest, one of the strangest IMDb's of all time.
He's all over the place.
And you're right. Like a year ago, if I was telling you what I was most looking forward to in 2023, I wouldn't have known about Poor Things. Right? There's always these movies that sneak up on you. I actually just wrote I'm excited to see what movies I don't know about that emerge. But you're right. You just naturally kind of gravitate towards what you know. And You know,
And I, was going to get some of this at the end, but as we're talking about it now, I might as well just address it. Like, yeah, I look back at my top 5 for most years, but just looking back on last year, and at least 3 of the 5 I had no concept of even coming out, and then they end up being in my top 5.
Some of your favorite
even
movies.
my favorite one, Oppenheimer. I remember like, okay, Nolan's doing an Oppenheimer movie. I was kind of excited because like Nolan's generally event viewing,
Yes.
but I had no idea how his, him doing a biopic.
if it was gonna,
If it was actually going to be great. It was just more like a curiosity,
Yeah.
and it ends up being great. So I don't know if I would have had it at the top of my most anticipated
Exactly.
list. And so, these are all just sort of guesses at this point, and like I said, it's going to have to come mostly from things that we've got some sort of.
mostly, yeah.
It's either we recognize the name of the franchise or we recognize the name behind the camera because we don't know much else about the
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to throw one out, and again, we're almost going down another level now because
Yeah. I take a pretty big jump here in a little bit.
yeah, and I'm gonna throw a couple of them together because I think they're sort of the same. They're in the same boat as far as why I'm anticipating them. So, the 2 I'm going to throw out together are Civil War,
Yep. It's on my
Alex
list.
Garland's latest film, and then a movie called Mickey 17,
Yes.
which is by Bong Joon-ho.
Yes.
And both of those are, I trust the filmmaker.
Correct.
They're weird. It could be, I have no idea what to expect from these movies, but I'm just kind of in because
I agree
their track
completely.
record speaks for itself, and all I had to see was they're behind it, and I go, I'm in.
Yep, same. And I actually saw during my movie day all 3 movies. I saw the Civil War trailer, and I don't know that the trailer in of itself got me super excited, but Alex Garland got me. That dependable set of hands.
Yeah, and honestly, like the thing with both those filmmakers is that they don't ever make really traditional
Movies.
and I think that's what saves the Civil War thing from me because if I saw
There's
that
more
preview
because you're like, there's more to it than this trailer.
If it was Civil War and at the end it goes from director Roland Emmerich, I'd be like, I'm out on this movie.
Pass.
I know exactly what's going to happen. I don't care. But when it's Alex Garland, I go, he's going to do. Yeah, you're right. He's going to do something different.
Probably something beneath the surface here.
Yeah, something's not going to, or at very least, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to have no idea what's going to happen with the main characters. And Jun Bong Ho is the same way.
Yeah.
His movie's like,
And he hasn't done a movie, I think, in a
idea.
couple years.
Not since Parasite, which
yeah.
he won the Best Picture for, 2019.
Right. Yeah, so a little bit of time has passed, and
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's one like, Civil War, like you said, we've seen the preview for, so we have a general idea of what this film's going to look like and stuff. Mickey 17, that's literally all I know is it's called Mickey 17.
and it's got a weird poster
And-
of a dude with like some stuff attached to his head, and he's
So-
like looking up.
So like no clue. And that's one like I'm hoping I can avoid as much as possible because I'd love to go in knowing
Some
nothing
movies,
more than
some
Mickey
movies
17.
you want to do that in.
And just going, what journey are you going to take me on here?
I had both of those on my list also. The only thing I would add to Civil War, Alex Garland and someone finally giving Nick Offerman what looks like, based on the trailer, a pretty significant role,
Yeah.
which is something I've been wanting for a long time. Nick Offerman is Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec, arguably the greatest TV character of all time.
Yes.
I just like that guy. I don't know if underrated is the right word or not, but I'm excited to see what he can do with what looks like a pretty big opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that aspect of it too. And with the other one, because like you said, seems like maybe things are being kept pretty hush hush about that movie. So just the filmmaker, simply the filmmaker, his first movie in a few years, it's got my interest.
Yeah. You want to go with another one on yours?
I will. I will say, at this point, I do feel like I take a little bit of a leap of not quality, but just like I think I want to see this. Like more of like I'm probably going to give this a shot unless the reviews are bad. The Fall Guy.
Okay. Yeah, that's on my list.
Yeah, with Ryan Gosling, who is he's entertaining. I saw a trailer for it, and I was like, okay. I don't know that the trailer really blew me away, but I still have high expectations. I still have a high level of excitement to see it. Kind of a, Gosling coming off his Barbie momentum and stuff, and just seeing what he can do. And he does that, the charming and the action and all of it. And he's really good at it. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
He's a a really funny guy. It actually
He's
kind of,
he's really funny.
Going back to some of my issues with the hype from Barbie is, I feel like everybody was like, man, Gosling's really funny. Like, he deserves.
He's been that way
and
for a
like,
while.
Yeah, he's been there. Like, did you guys not see like The Nice Guys? He's
Yeah.
hilarious.
He's been on SNL before. He's really naturally funny. So that's one. You know, it's not like man, I'm counting the days until this movie comes out. But when it does come out, I'll be interested to see if it's well received, and I'll probably check it out for sure.
Yeah, and again, not that the filmmaker gets me excited here, but it's a movie essentially about a stunt guy, and it's made by one of those stunt guys turned director.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I actually anticipate, I bet there'll be some pretty cool stunts.
Pretty cool stunts. Emily Blunt's in it. She's always solid, I feel like, in movies. I'm sure they'll have good chemistry together. So,
yeah. So 2 movies on mine that are remakes. Or no, I guess one's a remake, one's a sequel long time after the fact. And they're both like, I'm interested, and I'm almost so embarrassed how interested I am. One is Roadhouse, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Listen, Roadhouse is a ridiculous of its time movie.
It is ridiculous and so awesome.
But I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I like Doug Liman, who's directing it, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm curious to see what they do taking this material.
I know.
And going, how are they going to update it now? And likely it's just going to be kind of its completely own thing and not feel any connection to the old one.
The old one
maybe
is,
that's the way it has to be.
The old one is so of the time.
But I almost want to see. It's almost like it's not the same. But Top Gun Maverick, there's a lot of discussion of like, how can you take Top Gun, which is so of its time, and make a modern
update
one,
it, and they nailed it.
And they nailed it. And so I'm almost kind of like, well, maybe they can give Roadhouse the same treatment where they somehow capture some of the charm of the original and make it updated and incredible. And again, we've talked about it before. We really like Jake Gyllenhaal.
I like Jake Gyllenhaal. And I can tell you this. I want that movie to succeed so bad because I want someone to recapture the magic of those, Cobra, Roadhouse, Commando. And maybe they're not even going for that. So it remains to be seen. But if someone can somehow capture that 80s ridiculousness and kind of update it for now, for the times now, they've got my support.
Yeah.
Because those movies from the 80s bring me so much joy. They're so fun to watch. And no one has been able to quite capture that sense.
Yeah. And the other one is, I don't know if you saw, I guess you did see this if you went through the Wikipedia. Twisters.
It's on my list. And I wrote, what did I write next to it? I just wrote, in parentheses, probably going to be a guilty pleasure.
Yes.
It's got your guy, Glenn Powell, in it.
It does. And I was going to say, the only thing that I hate is that it can't have
Bill Paxton.
in it.
It's a tragedy.
It is a tragedy. But like you said, they got Glenn Powell, who I love.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, it's not the same energy as Bill Paxton, but there's a lovability.
There is.
Kind of like goofy, also kind of cool thing that Bill Paxton had that Glenn Powell also has. And I'm like, I think that was the perfect guy to cast.
I think so too. And I'm going to tell you, I've watched Twister like 2 or 3 times in the last 6 months because it was on, I think it was on Amazon Prime for a while, and I would just turn it on. I think it holds up really well.
Yeah.
I really do. For all of its ridiculousness, I think it's a very charming movie that holds up. And the idea of like I think that's a cool idea, just tornadoes.
Yeah.
I
think we talked about it before. It's kind of shocking that it's taken this long for somebody to attempt a sequel to it.
I can't believe it because the first one was massively successful.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there. It came out in 96. I was 16. Made tons of money. I can't believe it. I can't believe there wasn't Twister 2, 3, and 4. You know? So I've got it on my list. I'm excited. And, now, and again, not that it's all about the effects, but now the CGI is caught up and then some. So where, because you watch the original, and I do think, good effects, and especially for the time, but very clearly, sometimes it's very, very obvious CGI, and they won't have that problem now. So I'm hoping I hope they don't try to get too cute with how they connect to the original, and I just kind of let it. Really, don't try and reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
like just kind of do the same thing, which is normally something I would criticize. But I think for a Twister movie, just take 2, repeat.
Yeah, just update a little bit for the modern
update
stuff,
a little bit,
and then
give me some entertaining characters because that's kind of the charm of the original. You got Philip Seymour Hoffman's funny in the background, and just don't try and get too clever with it. Just make it entertaining.
Yeah.
I think it has the potential to be one of those just good, like, throwback summer blockbusters.
Yeah.
I hope it delivers because it was also on my list. Let's see. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay. Which one do I want to say next? Okay, I'll say this. I am excited, and this is another one that's because of the filmmaker, which he may not be that well known of a filmmaker, but in 2020, a guy by the name of Lee Wanell did The Invisible Man.
Okay.
And that was just a really pleasant surprise for me. Because I was like, oh my gosh, come on, people. Because there had been some failed attempts at like this monster connected universe.
Right. It started with the Tom Cruise Mummy movie.
Which was a miserable failure.
And it ended about with the Tom Cruise
Mummy.
It
It started, and so this, I wasn't necessarily saying it was going to be connected, but they were still trying to suck life out of like they call them like the universal.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be part of it.
Was it? Okay, I couldn't remember.
So.
And I was like, but my kids wanted to go see it. They were getting old enough now at that time to like start tapping into like the scary thrillers. We went to see it. I was really pleasantly surprised with that movie. Said all that to say this: he's going to do The Wolfman this year.
Yes.
And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping to once again be pleasantly surprised at what he does with the material. He took the Invisible Man story and gave it a modern, updated a modern, updated touch to it, and it worked, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so I hope he can do the same with The Wolfman.
Yeah. We've talked about before that you said it came out in 2020, right?
Yes.
And that was not a great year because it was the start of COVID.
I think it was the last movie to come out before COVID.
I'm just saying that qualifier to say this. It was one of my top 5 movies of that year. Not a great year, but it was one of the top 5 movies of the year. So I really enjoyed that movie.
It was a really good movie. It was really well done.
And I probably should have had it on my list. And it was just kind of like that's one I'm definitely kind of waiting to hear what the response is. Because I want to know, I probably should just have anticipated. I am anxious to see if he can repeat the magic. Because
that's
it was
what
great the first time.
Yep.
And
I really appreciate him because, and I think he's doing the same thing with The Wolfman. The Invisible Man movie, it was kept, the budget was reasonable. It wasn't a $200 million production. It was, I don't know, probably a $30-40 million production.
Yeah.
He kind of does things because he got started along with James Wan with Saw. So he knows how to do that smaller scale filmmaking that still looks good. Mm-hmm. So you're not looking at these ridiculous budgets and this just CGI, and he seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah, it was a nice, small, intimate story.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I hope he'll kind of stick with that strategy. And, The Wolfman, they've tried over the years. Benicio del Toro did one that was garbage. Jack Nicholson did a really weird one in the 90s with Michelle Pfeiffer that is just a weird movie that didn't work. So, there's a good movie to be made somewhere in there, I believe, and I hope this is it.
Yeah. My next ones I'm gonna sort of rattle off because it's 3 sequels again.
Okay.
And I don't have a lot to say about any of them. They're all pretty low on my anticipation scale, but they all sort of made the anticipation scale. First one is Ballerina.
Yes.
Which is
the John Wick
not direct
universe.
sequel, but it's, a John Wick universe movie. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, would I just be out on this? Yeah. But they cast Ana de Armas as the lead.
Yep.
And that's another one who, I may be in love with Ana de Armas. And so do I want to go watch her do John Wick type stuff?
Yeah.
Why not? I'll go watch that.
She definitely, she has a charisma and a screen presence. And she was in one of those really bad Netflix movie with Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling. I think she's in that. Yeah. The Gray Man.
What's in that one? She did a movie with Chris Evans called Ghosted.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I think she might have been in that other one too. Anyway,
she may have.
She's got a screen presence. Yeah. So yeah.
I
mean, John Wick is. I mean, they've made 4 movies, and I've liked all 4 of them. So.
Yeah, I just I hope they don't overextend themselves, going like we're going to extend this whole universe because Keanu Reeves is such a crucial ingredient.
He is.
In that. I didn't watch. I don't know if they made a TV show called The Continental. I didn't even try it. I had a friend who likes the John Wick movies who tried it, and he's like, it wasn't.
I don't think people loved it, which does make me a little bit nervous, but
yeah,
I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah. The next one is Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley.
Yes.
This is so late to be doing a 4th installment. Eddie Murphy hasn't made a good movie in a long time. That said, I love him as Axel Foley. And what it is, I can see a version where it could be really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust that's the version they're going to make. I doubt it's the version they're going to make.
know.
And so this is really like, I put this on the lowest level of anticipation. That on a scale of 1 to 10, I had
Like a 2.
I actually like I put 5, but I figured if it's below a 5, they're not anticipating.
Yeah, that's
so I
fair
put 5
enough.
right in the middle, and it's so I'm just gonna.
And it's like it's going to be straight to Netflix.
It
I
is.
think.
It's gonna be straight to Netflix, which actually, like, there were a couple years ago, if you would told me straight to Netflix, I'd been like, I have no faith in it.
I've got a little bit more
their
faith
game.
now. Yep.
So
I agree.
It makes me a little happier. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And then the last one of these 3 is there's a Knives Out.
Oh, is
The
it?
third Knives
I didn't
Out
even
song
know
that's
that.
supposed to come out. Now, it doesn't even have a date yet, but everywhere I looked online says it's supposed to come out in 2024.
So we'll see. It could end
And
up.
it's just I've liked both Knives
I have
Out and
too.
Glass Onion, and
I
so
liked them both.
if they're going to give me a third one, I will be there and I will watch it.
Same. Yeah. Okay. One I'm looking forward to. I'm going to go with an original one, and I'm going to
Nice.
Yeah, because I feel like I'm just so heavy into the sequels and remakes. So one thing you talking about your movie watching patterns and stuff. You know, usually, especially in the last few years with the emergence of Blumhouse and their horror, they've been dropping in that January, February, March time slot. They've been dropping the last few years some movies, and they've been successful. Last year, the biggest example was Megan. They dropped Megan in January. Not the greatest movie, but I had a lot of fun with it. Got a lot of social media buzz and stuff. This year in March, they're dropping one called Imaginary. And I am looking forward to that as a horror movie fan. I like what Blumhouse does for the most part, keeping things a little smaller scale and doing a lot of original horror. They're doing some unoriginal, and they're tapping back into stuff, but they do try to do original horror. And this one looks, it hits all the notes. You watch the trailer, and it's got the jump scares and the creepy visuals and stuff. I'm a sucker for that. So I am looking forward to this. I'm hoping they can kind of recapture that feeling like they did with Megan, where you go, okay, like this was fun. Not the best movie. It checked a lot of boxes of, this kind of movie does this thing.
Right.
And I imagine this one will too. And the poster is like a...
No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a kid's, it's got like a stuffed bear, and and they know how to take like those really mundane things and make them creepy. So I'm excited for it.
I do think it's funny that this year we're getting a horror movie about imaginary friends and a like Pixar type movie by John Krasinski,
directed by Krasinski.
About imaginary friends. I can't remember what that one's called.
If Imaginary Friends.
So there's If and Imagine. It'd be funny if they're both good and they become like this odd, people going double feature.
Like a Barbenheimer situation. Yeah. So I mean, I cannot imagine a world where I go to that and go, that's one of the best movies I've seen in years.
Right.
But I hope it'll be one of those movies where I go, you know what, I had a really good time, and I ate my popcorn, and I watched the movie, and I jumped a few times, and I was on the, had the appropriate suspense. So I'm rooting for Blumhouse. I like that they're cranking out horror movies.
Yeah. One movie that I'm interested in, and as I was just making this list, I actually made me more interested about it because I was thinking about why I might be interested in this movie. It's actually coming out pretty soon, and that's ISS, the International Space Station movie. Yep. It's kind of a small horror movie, and the premise is actually kind of great. They're looking down and they see like wars broken out because they're just seeing like the nuclear fallout, and they get like last instructions before they lose contact, and they're on a space station, 3 Americans, 3 Russians, and they get the take over the station from the Russians. And they're like, we know the Russians probably got the same instruction. And so there's this tension of
it's a really clever idea.
I love movies that take place in small settings.
Yes.
And seeing like, how are you going to
draw suspense out of this? Yep.
And there's obviously a great tension that just being in space inherently has.
Space is a great setting for a movie.
And then the 3 actors playing the Americans are Ariana DeBose, who was in West Side Story, won an Oscar for it. And actually, I applauded that choice because I loved her in that movie. Like she was incredibly
really
charming. Good. Chris Messina, who I was introduced to from the show The Newsroom, but he's been in a lot of things. He was in Air last year, and the best parts of Air were him and Matt Damon on the phone with each other.
100%.
And then John Gallagher Jr., who I also learned from The Newsroom, but was in 10 Cloverfield Lane, which was another great small sci-fi tension movie, and he was great in that.
Just in a quick side note, he's also in one of my favorite small-scale horror movies, the Blumhouse movie, Hush.
Okay.
He's incredible in that movie, and you should check it out.
All right. So yeah, so that one, the more I was like writing, like, why am I getting excited for? I was like, okay, yeah, that's setting it.
This thing's got a lot of things that sound.
There's a lot of people I like in this. So yeah, I'm excited. January 19th, I'm going to go to the theater and watch ISS.
Okay, we're going to keep going. We're doing okay on time.
Time is a construct, and
well, I know. Look, you're a busy guy.
Yeah, I'm saying maybe we can up the pace.
I've got a couple I can.
Some of these aren't as.
I'm finding less and less to say.
Yeah.
This one I don't have a ton to say. I'm a little interested in Argyle.
It's on my list.
Yeah. Matthew Vaughn. Some of his movies don't work for me.
Yeah.
I think he gets a little. He thinks sometimes he's maybe a little bit more clever than maybe he is. I know that really sounds like a shot. I don't mean it to, but. Kind of a fun trailer, really good cast.
Yeah.
The one thing that made me not want to watch it is at the end of the trailer it shows that cat like come flying up, and I'm just like, okay, come on. No cat has never been entertaining in a movie, but I'm mildly interested, and I don't have a whole lot else to say about that one.
Fair enough. That's about where I land with that one too. So another one that I'm just mildly interested in. Horizon, America's Saga, which has a Chapter 1 coming out June 28th and Chapter 2 coming out August 16th. I'll say this. I'm all for the two-part movies only being a couple months apart. I think that's wonderful. But the curiosity of this is it's a Kevin Costner production. Like, he's directing it. He's starring in it. He basically, I think, has left the show Yellowstone, which is wildly popular because he's like, I want to do this instead.
He just like took all that Yellowstone momentum and was like, okay, I got that momentum. Now I want to go do. Yeah.
And so I'm curious. Like, what is this project that you said I want to cash in all my chips to go do this thing?
Yeah.
And
Costner either goes really right or really wrong.
That's true. And I generally like Costner.
I do too.
So I am curious to see this. I'm hoping it's something good. I'm hoping Chapter 1 comes out, and I see it, and I'm like,
can't wait for
awesome.
Chapter 2.
Just a couple months from now, I'm going to get the culmination of this.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of room, too, in Hollywood and movie going just for good Westerns.
Yes.
It's a good genre if done well.
And Costner obviously loves
Man, does
Westerns.
he love them. He loves them.
The one thing that gives me pause is it does probably fall into that category that I much malign of Passion Project. So we'll see.
I agree. There's a lot of potential. Yeah. And as we've talked about, your theory is correct. A lot of times Passion Project means a boring mess of a movie.
Yeah. Do you have more? I just
have a couple that I can throw out real quick. Bike Riders.
Okay.
With Tom Hardy and Austin Butler.
Yeah.
Basically about a motorcycle gang. Normally I wouldn't be that excited about it. I really like Tom Hardy and I like Austin Butler.
Yeah. I liked Austin Butler too, but watching that preview, it confirmed what I thought, which is that Austin Butler is now having the career that I thought Garrett Hedlund was going to have.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Maybe,
and I don't know. That movie may just come and go and be nothing. I saw the trailer. I don't remember being overly excited. I like the cast. It's a movie I'm willing to give a shot to. And I can wrap up real quick. I just want to throw out, there is a new Alien movie coming out this year. Mm-hmm. The first two Alien movies, I think, are both in their own right masterpieces. And then the franchise went really off the rails. The last couple ones I was really down on. Ridley Scott came back to him, and I didn't like those at all. This one is directed by Fede Alvarez, who did the Evil Dead remake, which was unnecessary.
I saw the name, and I was like, I don't know who this is.
So he did the Evil Dead remake, and then he did that movie, give me just a second, the name's escaping right now. It's got Stephen Lang from Avatar in it, and then the girl from Evil Dead, and it's like a home invasion movie, but there's a twist to it. And
it's like
Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe.
Which was a really good movie. Normally, I would not be excited about another Alien movie, but I am excited to see what he can do with it. Mm-hmm. And then way down the road, I think next Christmas, Robert Eggers, who's done some really divisive movies. One that I hated, which was The Lighthouse.
I hated that movie so much.
I never want to watch that movie.
I hated it more than I hated Maestro.
Wow, that was a really bad movie. That if we'd have been doing that podcast that year, that would have been my least favorite movie of the year. I guarantee it. He is doing a remake of Nosferatu, which the original Nosferatu is a classic. It's a silent movie. It's from the 20s or 30s. Yeah. And it honestly, I think it holds up as a good horror movie to this day. So, cautiously optimistic. That's kind of the opposite, though, where The filmmaker does not get me very excited because I don't really like his movies. But I do think that's good material that has the potential to be a good, truly, like, I don't know if horror movie is the right word, just a good, creepy, atmospheric movie, and I hope it delivers.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. And you might be right. Like, I think he is very talented as a visual artist and filmmaker.
He is.
I hate the stories he tells.
Me too. The Witch was another one.
Yeah.
It's creepy. It looks creepy. It's got the atmosphere. I just hate the story he tells. Exactly.
The Northman, I felt like was like there was a great possible movie there, and it was just so it was like 45 degrees off into weird, strange, creepy, and I was like, I still think back on it, I'm like, did I like that movie? There was some no, man, I hated that movie.
Yeah.
When I think about it. So maybe if he takes some material that's not so easy for him to like turn and make weird.
Yes.
And he goes, I'm just going to be a good visual storyteller.
Yes. And that's what I'm hoping for from this movie.
Yeah.
So it is on my list.
Last one I want to throw out as anticipating is a movie called Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is going to be the only one that I say is just because of the talent in front of the camera. It's George Clooney and Brad Pitt.
Yes.
I want to see if the amazing chemistry they had together in the Ocean's movies can fuel this one, which I think they play fixers in the movie. That's
they do.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt get together and play fixers. I'm in. Don't tell me anything else.
Those guys are just so naturally likable and watchable up on screen. So I agree. Is that one coming straight to a streaming?
That I don't know.
I thought maybe I read that. I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Same. And I have no problem with movies basically being in streaming right away, as long as there's also the theater option.
Yeah.
Because I get like there's going to be a very limited number of people, and I get my studios to do it more because they're like not enough people are going to go see it in the theater if it's also in a streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the type of weirdo that will go like I want to go see it in the theater even though it's on a streaming service.
Definitely would choose theater.
That being said, I didn't watch Five Nights at Freddy's.
Mm-hmm.
It was not a movie that was appealing to me at all.
Right.
But apparently it was also one of those movies that was in theaters while being available to stream and did really great business.
Yeah.
And so I'm almost hoping that was a rare, like, great lesson for Hollywood to learn. Is like, yeah, you can actually do this. People want to see things in theaters.
It did big numbers. It had a big drop the second weekend, but it was a Blumhouse thing, so it had Beyond made its money in its first weekend in the theater.
And it stayed in theaters for a long time,
Yeah.
it felt like. So I would love for that lesson to be learned. So the next time a movie like The Killer comes out, maybe Netflix goes, hey, we can put this in theaters and right on our platform and serve both things at once. And people
I
who want to see The
100%
Killer-
would have gone to see The Killer in the
Yes,
theater.
I would have too.
Yep.
So did you have any others?
That was my whole list. And like I said, the only other thing I wrote is just, I'm looking forward to some movie that I don't even know about. Kind of, last year I didn't know about No One Will Save You.
Yeah.
I didn't know about Poor Things. I know there's others,
Yeah.
Just looking forward to see what the year holds. And then I did jot down just real quickly, and I talked about it, so I won't go on it. Really looking forward to see what Marvel can do this year after having a really rough 2023.
Yeah. So I have some more notes. These are I have 3 movies that I made a list called were anticipated movies of 2024. So one of them being Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2.
I'm really salty about that.
It's really disappointing that we thought that was going to be a big summer release.
I know.
And of course it's not now. But good news is there is a date now set for it.
Is it like May 2025?
Yes, May 23rd of 2025.
Yeah.
So
I was really hoping after the strike they would be like, you know what, we can get this done for 2024.
Yeah, same here. The second one I'll mention is much like it. Spider-Man: Beyond the Spider-Verse was supposed to be coming out in March 29th of this year. But actually,
I think the filmmakers were like, whoa.
Yeah.
If I remember that story right.
You're probably right. So it doesn't have a release date yet. So perhaps it's still possible that end of the
seems
year.
more likely to me to be 2025.
But I'm going to guess 2025. So those are 2 movies that obviously would have been on the list if
yeah.
they were still 2024 movies. And then the last one is an untitled Jordan Peele movie was supposed to come out Christmas Day, and it got pushed back. So that's another one. Filmmaker, you just say Jordan Peele movie, and I go, I'm in. Don't tell me anymore.
Yep.
And
I was so disappointed by that.
Yeah. So, it doesn't have a release date as of yet, but I'm assuming, again, it'll be probably another May of 2025 or something.
I was really hoping that, I think at one point in time, Tarantino's new movie was supposed to be a 2024 movie. And then I really haven't heard anything in a little bit because the strike kind of messed everything up. But obviously a Tarantino movie is going to jump right to the top of my list.
Especially when it's
supposed to be his last movie.
His last one.
Yep.
Which, I still am of the opinion of Tarantino, I will think nothing less of you if you get to 10 and then you say, I want to do one more. Like, even though you've said this all along, I'm not going to be like, you liar. I'm going to be like, great. Change your mind.
Because his last movie may be his best movie.
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Probably my favorite to rewatch.
Me too. I find myself rewatching that all the time.
Yeah. And then we did this last time. We got a little, our most passion came out as we talked about negatives. So I made a list of my least anticipated movies of the year.
Oh.
And I'd like to throw these out to you and just see if we can get a quick response.
Yeah.
So February 14th, Madam Web.
My number one. Throw me the ball and let me cook for a second, Jeremy.
Go ahead, Ed.
That movie looks so bad. Okay? First of all, nobody cares about this offset of the Spider-Man universe. Morbius was laughed out of theater. Was that what it's called?
It was laughed out of theaters twice.
Twice.
Laughed out, laughed back in, and then laughed
back out. Nobody cares about that. I don't like the Venom movies. I love Tom Hardy. I do not like Venom. I don't like the tone of the movie. They've got Kraven the Hunter coming out, which also looks just bad. Madam Web looks like a student film. Or, back in my day, it would have been like a direct to TNT movie. It looks so bad. And I encourage you to go watch the trailer. It's Dakota Johnson, who I'm not sure is a good actress at all. The only thing she's really ever been in are the 50 Shades movies, which I have not watched. Yeah. She has a line delivering that trailer where she's like, they murdered my mom while she was in the Amazon learning about spiders. So they showed that trailer when I went to see Ferrari. People laughed, and not in the good way. Yeah. They were laughing. They weren't laughing with the movie. They were laughing at the movie. That movie looks awful. I'm so sad for Sydney Sweeney that she's in it. It looks terrible. Rant over. Thank you.
I do feel bad for Sydney Sweeney. It just looks like a dumpster fire of a movie.
It looks like a train wreck. I would almost be willing to bet it'll be one of those movies that if it does come out and bomb, which I think it will, it'll be like, you'll start hearing stories like this movie was a mess. There was 6 different writers. There was 12 rewrites. It'll be one of those movies that develops a reputation.
Yeah, it already has that look. March 8th, Kung Fu Panda 4. Admittedly, I haven't seen the first 3. I just can't believe they're still making Kung Fu Pandas.
Come on, I know. There's a poster for it in the Savoy Theater, and I'm like, come on, let this die.
By the way, with these, rather than putting a number on my anticipation, I just put anticipation, then a couple of different little catchphrases for it. Madam Web was will avoid. So I have will avoid as a category. And for Kung Fu Panda 4, I had not in my orbit. This is just a movie that's so out of my my range of interest or what I see.
Yeah.
This one I'm curious about because I'm going to name 2 here that are probably more. If anybody would be interested in this table, it would be you. The First Omen and The Strangers Chapter 1. Both of them, I was just like, can't you make something original? And so I was annoyed.
So the trailer for The First Omen just dropped this week. I watched the first 30 seconds of the trailer and I was like, nope, don't care. Okay. That's it. Going back to what I said, that is not a world I want to be back in.
Yeah.
I'm interested in a Mad Max prequel. I'm not interested in an Omen prequel.
Okay. Good to know.
And The Strangers, I'm completely indifferent about. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they'll be good. I don't know.
Yeah. Godzilla. It's supposed to be Times Kong, Godzilla X Kong.
Could not. Those movies are bad.
They're bad. I already was not going to see it, but I'm just going to say after Godzilla -1 came out, these movies should be embarrassed. They should be embarrassed that this is what they put out as Godzilla movie.
I think Godzilla -1 is going to hurt these movies.
Yeah,
because they're bad. Godzilla. I took my boys to see Godzilla vs. Kong, and at the time they were 11, and I was like, of course, an 11-year-old, and they were like,
yeah,
it couldn't even appeal to 11-year-olds. They're bad.
Inside Out 2, again.
Why?
Not in my orbit, but I'm also like, yeah.
Why are you making this?
There really can't be. You told the story about emotions. This just feels like it was too successful not to make a sequel.
Oh, I hate that. And I do admire, I like Pixar movies. Up is an amazing movie, a 4-star movie in my opinion. They never made a sequel because Pixar for a while was doing really good at just telling these isolated, really sweet, a lot of heart into these movies. And I think Inside Out was probably one of those movies. I never saw it. And then it's like, why are you?
And it's
like, the gimmick is like, we added a new emotion. And you're just like, Nobody cares. I mean, I'm sure they do care. I'm sure they'll make money, but
Yeah.
ugh.
The thing that always annoyed me about Inside Out is that each of the emotions inside the head had all the emotions. So I'm like, what is it? Is it an endless cycle that inside the emotions head,
Yeah.
there's all these other emotions?
It just seems so unnecessary.
This one makes me sad to put on my least anticipated list. Untitled fourth Bad Boys film.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Bad Boys 1 and 2. I even had fun with 3.
I thought 3 was pretty good.
But Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are not bad boys anymore.
They're not.
Martin Lawrence is fat. And,
he is.
And Will Smith is an insecure man who slaps people on a stage.
Will
to try to
Smith
look
has
tough. It's
really damaged his reputation.
Yeah.
Martin Lawrence, like, you fear for his health watching Bad Boys 3. He just looks so puffy and out of shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
kind of sad.
It does make me
And
sad.
Bad Boys 1 now I think it's back. It's either on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I was watching it the other day. It's really fun.
Yeah.
It's very much of the 90s, but it's a really fun movie. And, we put a lot of continuations of franchises and stuff on our list, but there's some franchises that so obviously just don't need to continue.
Right.
And I would agree with you 100% that Bad Boys 4 qualifies.
I've got some more of this. The next one is Despicable Me 4.
The franchise that just will not die. Because they also have the Minions tied into those.
That's what I said. Between the Despicable Me,
this is like the seventh
those
one
movies
or
and the
something.
Minions, haven't we had enough? And here's the thing, a lot of these animated movies, again, they're usually not in my orbit, but if I watch them, a lot of them, I'm usually like, hey, you know what, that was pretty good. It's pretty well done.
Yeah.
But the Despicable Me movies are so ADHD. There's so much going on at once. The camera, so many. It gives me a headache.
Yeah.
I literally cannot watch these.
I know. It's really disappointing, too, because Steve Carell is the voice of the main character, Gru. I love Steve Carell, but I saw that, too, and I was like, the fourth Despicable Me movie? Like, holy cow. Plus, the Minions spin-offs, which I think there's been one or two or maybe three of those. I don't know.
Whatever it is, you see
It's too
Minion
many.
stuff everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I've never been like, hey, those are kind of cool. I just always hated them.
Yeah, I agree.
This one I'm curious for your take, because this is kind of falls in not my orbit, whereas every other not my orbit has been like a kids movie thing. This is one that's I have no connection to the original. Beetlejuice 2.
Don't care.
Okay.
Nope. Really like Beetlejuice 1.
Yeah.
It was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a thing when I grew up. Michael Keaton's really funny in it. It was Tim Burton. It was, Tim Burton's always weird, but it was kind of before he wore out the welcome of like, yeah, dude, we get it, you're weird.
Yeah.
So it had an originality to it. I don't care about this new one at all. And maybe it'll be funny. I just don't care. And it's one of those movies that's kind of been, they say like developmental hell. Mm-hmm. It's been there for like 20 years. That's usually not a good sign. And then by the time it does come out, it usually is pretty anticlimactic. So
yeah.
I know Jenna Ortega's in it. People are excited about that.
Yeah.
She is good, but
this is one that I'm sitting there going like, I have no interest in, but I can actually see like this is one that I think because of the podcast, if it comes out and it's starting to get like big buzz and everyone's going to see it, like I'll be like, okay, I'll go check it out and we'll talk about it on the podcast or something. But
I fear that'll be one of. I could be wrong. I'm always happy to be proven wrong, but I do think it'll be one of those ones where everyone goes, should have just left it alone.
Yeah. I already know exactly what you're going to say about this one. Transformers 1.
Are you pranking me right now?
Nope.
Good grief. The franchise that will not go away. I just don't care. I don't care. Now, the only thing I will say, because I've dogged Transformers a lot, this past summer, was it called like Rise of the Beasts or something like that?
I think
Michael Bay did get away from him, and I don't know who it was, but someone new directed this last one. And I do think they did, even though it's Transformers and it's still a CGI fest, they did kind of bring it down a little. Like where Michael Bay's, it was like, these movies look like they cost $3 billion and it's just garbage up on the screen. I think they've been brought back down to a little more reasonable level, but holy cow. This will be like will this be like the 7th or 8th Transformers movie? Because Michael Bay did, 4 or 5?
3 Shia LaBeouf. There's like 2 with Mark Wahlberg, I think. There's whatever the most recent one, a Bumblebee movie.
There's a lot. Wow. We're getting some franchise fatigue for sure.
Yeah.
We don't need 4 Kung Fu Pandas.
It started in 2007 or something? So it's not like it's been like 16 years in like 8 movies. So we're basically getting one every other year.
Yeah. I'm going to be passing on that. Speaking
of franchises that have gone on way too long, Saw 11.
Good grief. You would almost think some of these are a joke.
Yeah, I know.
And it was so funny. I was just reading the other day. I read an article about Saw 11, and the producers or whoever were like, well, after the success of Saw 10, we have to make Saw 11. And it's like, but you don't. You don't. Like, you can just walk away. I understand that money talks. I get that.
It reminds me of a classic bit from a South Park episode where the town needs a lot of money, so they pull together money and they go to a casino, and all the people are there, and they do the roulette table, and they win. And they win them enough money to like save the town. And they're all celebrating, and somebody goes, "Let it ride!" And they're like, "Let it ride!" So they do it again, lose
it all,
and they're driving home, and the kids are like, "You had it. Why'd you do it? You had it." And the dad goes, "Son, you just don't understand. You never quit while you're hot." And he's like, "That doesn't make any sense."
Ugh. And here's the thing that frustrates me: horror movies can be made for very little money, and they are almost, not always, they are almost always profitable.
Yeah.
People will go see horror movies. And they make, like, I was just reading this. It's like Saw 10, they made it for like $15 million, and it made like $105 million. I know, it's really sad.
Who is seeing these?
I don't know. Take your $15 million and make something original.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need 11 Saw movies. I can't believe that's a thing. I like horror movies. If you want to make another gory movie, go for it. There's an audience for that. There's a demographic. We don't just keep having to resurrect the dead corpse that is Saul.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah, that horse is dead. Let's stop beating it.
Yes.
All right, this one may surprise you that it's on my least anticipated because I even liked the first one okay. Joker, and then I don't even know how to pronounce it.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not...
Folie à Deux,
yeah.
maybe.
Look, the first one was a good movie. I've watched it once. My goal or my plan is to never watch it again because it's not a happy movie. And not that movies have to be happy, but that one is very...
Very unhappy.
Very, very unhappy. I just am having a really hard time getting excited about that. And like we've talked about before, the DC world is such a jumbled mess. Mm-hmm. And I know that this doesn't exist in like the same world as The Flash and stuff, but they have just muddied the waters so bad. And now we're getting Lady Gaga's version of Harley Quinn, which Margot Robbie just made famous a couple years ago. And they're so quick to just blur the lines and muddy the waters that it makes me not care. Yeah. I'm sure Joaquin Phoenix will be great. I'm sure Lady Gaga will be great.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe he'll be like Napoleon again, and he'll just show up and be like, "What am I doing here?"
Yeah, I can't get excited.
No.
Same director, same crew, Joaquin Phoenix again, who's obviously a good actor, but I just can't make myself get excited.
No, and I didn't love the first one. I thought it was okay. I really felt like they stretched this version of the Joker as far as they could. And I'm like, nothing about it said, let's get more of this guy. It felt like you're done. There was nothing that compelling about him. He was a loser, and it's like, okay, the loser did this thing. The most compelling part of the movie is when a whole like crowd of
he gets all
and I'm like, that's as far as it can go. What is this guy gonna do? Suddenly be like menacing? He's not menacing. He's suddenly gonna be, I don't know. Like what can you do with him? He was such a loser character.
It seems like there's nowhere else to go, and not even this. Not even this specific version of the Joker, but the Joker character, there's so much out there. You know, there's the Heath Ledger, there's the Jack Nicholson, there's the DC does those like animated movies.
There's another animated one coming out.
Yes.
That's a Joker specific animated
movie.
There's
so much like Joker material out there. I don't need to see that story continue.
Yeah. And to be fair, Barry Keoghan is going to be the Joker in the Matt Reeves Batman universe, and I equally don't care about that.
No.
I don't want to see
DC
that.
Oh my gosh, talk about having no like restraint at all. Yeah. DC just goes for it, and like I said, you know, Margot Robbie just made her version of Harley Quinn popular, whether you like those movies or not. Yeah. That character was well received, and you know, her last movie was like, she was in like the second Suicide Squad, which is also stupid because it was like 3 years after the first Suicide Squad. And people love that character. And now all of a sudden we're getting Lady Gaga's version of it. And I'm sure it'll be dark and unpleasant and all these things. And I just don't care.
I don't either. Speaking of don't care, Untitled Venom Let There Be Carnage sequel.
Gosh. Could not care less. I'm telling you, I know I've said it, I love Tom Hardy.
Yes.
Love him.
Let's get him away from these movies.
Get him away from these movies.
I love Woody Harrelson.
I do too.
Get him away from these movies.
Get him away.
These are just wasting
I don't
their
like these
talents.
Venom movies. Even when superhero movies were at their when my enthusiasm for superhero movies was at an all-time high with Infinity War and Endgame, somewhere in there, Venom and Venom 2 were coming out. Didn't care then.
Yeah.
And my superhero movie, excitement was at an all-time high. Don't care.
Yeah. I've got 4 more. Can you believe that? I've got my list for movies I'm not looking forward to seeing was actually longer than my list of movies I'm looking forward to seeing. Granted, again, because a lot of the movies I know I'm going to enjoy, I don't know about yet. Gladiator 2. That's the one that most sounds like a joke to me.
Unbelievable.
Original came out in what, like
2000?
2000. So 24 years later, we're going to get a sequel to a movie that had nothing about it that said sequel should come.
It drives me nuts when they tell these, like you watch Gladiator, there's a clear beginning, there's a clear middle, the story gets told. His story gets told. He avenges his wife and child. He dies. He reunites with them in the afterlife. He inspires people. That is a complete story. Then all of a sudden it's like, well, 30 years later, or not 30 years later, but a long time later, we're going to give you a sequel.
Yeah.
I don't care.
My biggest question about this is, what is poor Denzel Washington doing in this thing?
What in the world?
I think it's to me seems like a really bad sign. There's always that tipping point where like actors that are getting older suddenly start popping up in supporting roles in movies that you're like, you're too good for this. Denzel, please don't tell me that this is gonna be that
Don't
tipping
do this,
point in your
Denzel.
career.
He has always chosen good movies.
Yeah.
He just has. And now I know I'm like, oh, this seems like it has bad. And Ridley Scott he's directing it,
I
right?
believe so.
He's getting old. Not that Scorsese proved this year that you can still succeed in your older age, but it just feels like an old guy going back to something that was a success a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm not excited.
The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim.
What is that?
I don't know.
I don't either. I just read about that like 20 minutes before I walked over here, and I was like, wait, what?
All I gotta say
Is it animated? Is it live action?
I'm pretty sure it's live action. I'm not sure, but we have the original trilogy, and I love it, and that's all we needed.
Yeah.
We didn't need a Hobbit trilogy.
We don't need the
We
Amazon.
didn't need the Amazon show, and we don't need whatever this is.
No.
Please stop trying to capture magic where the magic is. It was used where it fit, and now it's done.
Ugh.
Speaking of,
Look, just real quickly, I just want to say about Lord of the Rings. Return of the King, awesome movie. Certainly took its time wrapping up that story. Everyone jokes like that movie had like 17 endings. So if we are continuing that, it's like, no, we don't. They took an hour to wrap up Return of the King.
there's an untitled Karate Kid film
That's
that has
combining
Ralph Macchio
and
and
Jackie Chan.
2 movies that totally uncompatible. Also,
and now we're just
doesn't-
going to smash them
doesn't
together.
even relate to the Cobra Kai thing, which has been so successful, which is what you would think if they're going to make a movie that's going to tie into something that's been successful. This just feels like a disaster from
Waiting to
the
happen.
start.
It does. They really, I don't want to say they got lucky because they earned it, but like against all odds, Cobra Kai is good.
Yeah.
Don't press your luck, people.
Yeah.
Don't. And I guarantee you that's the only reason this movie exists.
Absolutely.
Because Cobra Kai was successful. And it was like, hey, Machio, we'll write you another check. Okay, sure.
Machio's like, I could use them checks.
I'll
Let's
take
go.
them. Keep them coming. Yeah.
And then the last one I wrote down was Mufasa, the Lion King.
I knew you would hate that. I hate it. I knew you would hate it.
Yeah.
In one of our very first episodes I was re-listening to, you talked about how these Disney live action. And you said it. You said they are just soulless. And you are so right. And they are just going to keep trying. We got that. And I think in 2025, Snow White. There's a slew of them on this.
I think I saw that Emma Stone's going to be doing a Cruella sequel, and I'm...
Come on. No, I don't blame you. Those movies they're just actively frustrating.
Yeah.
Because again, those are like, I remember Little Mermaid came out this year, and I was reading about like the box office and stuff, and it was like it has to make $500 million before it even breaks even. They are throwing so much money up on the screen, and these movies have no originality. Usually someone gets ticked off about the casting, and it's so annoying to me. I agree. Could not care less.
Yeah. Yeah, I actively hate them.
Yeah,
It's just,
I don't blame you.
it makes me angry. I think the thing that makes me the most angry is that there's people in my life who love those movies. They get excited like, oh, I'm so excited because there's, The Little Mermaid's coming out, and that was my favorite animated movie. I'm like, then watch the animated one.
Then just watch the animated one.
Like, there's not a movie from my childhood that I would be like super excited that they're taking the thing that I loved and making it again. I'd be like, don't mess with it.
Don't mess with it.
If it's still lovable, we don't need to have this conversation. Someday we're gonna have a whole conversation. I did a podcast on my own years ago. That was like my rules for remakes. I think we need to sit down and I'm gonna read my list to you and see how we feel about that, and then talk about some of our worst examples. But we can actually talk about some. There's been good remakes, but that's why I said there's certain criteria.
There is criteria.
If you hit those criteria, you can actually make.
There are movies I like that are remakes quite a bit.
Again, some of my anticipated movies. Roadhouse is a remake. Maybe that, and maybe it'll be bad. Maybe it'll be good.
Maybe it will.
But we'll get into that.
I have a feeling that for the next many years that we do this, every year you'll be able to have one of these on your. I'm so not. In 2025 it'll be Snow White. In 2026 it'll be Aladdin 2. In 2020, I don't think they're going to stop.
The one I'm going to be most angry about is I say this one. Maybe something will beat it to the punch, but there's going to be like a live action Moana, and because it'll be the one that's it's so recent, it's going to make me that much angrier. And it's like at least these other ones, the movies came out like the 90s maybe, and I'm like, okay, at least it's been almost 30 years. When you put out a live action Moana and like Dwayne The Rock Johnson plays the character he voiced just a few years later, I'm just going to be livid that.
And it's coming because I saw him on Instagram. I think that's his next movie that he's making. Like it's coming. It's not just a thing they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they just did that again where I just read where somebody signed on to do, they're making a live action How to Train Your Dragon movie.
I saw that too.
And like Gerard Butler or someone is like, yeah, I did the voice and now I'm just going to be it. And it's like, oh, come on, people.
It's literally like saying, hey, you don't want anything creative or original about this. Literally nothing.
And then it's like, I guarantee you're going to find out Moana and how it's like the budget was $385 million. It's got to make $1 billion before it even becomes profitable. That's why I hate the Transformers franchise. I don't mind big money being spent for a movie. I don't mind that Avengers Endgame cost $400 million. They earned that. They built up to it. They had success after success after success. That was a guaranteed. You were going to get your money back on that investment. I hate when they throw money up on the screen and it's like we're kind of just we're just going to throw this money up there. Hopefully it works out for us. It drives me crazy.
Yeah,
hate it. We're going off on tangents now.
We are. We've probably gone too far. We may have lost the audience. Thank you. If we didn't lose you and you stick with us.
These last couple ones have warranted long podcasts.
Yes. We want to make a guarantee to you, though, that we will never just throw a whole bunch of money at this podcast on the screen.
We're going to stay humble.
Low budget. We're going to be indie in our roots. And,
we're the Blumhouse of podcasting.
We are.
I just want to say your list is excellent for movies that you're not anticipating.
Thank you.
By far and away, my number one is Madam Web. I actually... Maybe I'll go see it. We might have to do a podcast on that because I think it's going to be one of the worst movies of all time.
Yeah, it might be one of those we have to hate watch and do a podcast.
We might have to.
About.
The only one I would add, and I'm not 100% sure this is going to be a 2024. It might be a 2025. I actually just read about this morning, not preparing for this podcast, just reading movie news. They are doing another Oceans movie with Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling as it's a prequel. They are playing the parents of the George Clooney character, Danny Ocean. Did you catch that? Did I explain that right? Yes, that is the approach. And I was like, why? And why would people as talented as Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, who are red hot right now because of Barbie, whether you like it or not, this is what they're choosing to do. Another Oceans movie? I love Sandra Bullock. Let me just say that. Yeah. I was watching Gravity. I was thinking, is she the best actress working today?
She's underrated for sure.
She's underrated. It made me I was so disappointed that she did Oceans, what was it called? Oceans 8?
Yeah.
I never watched it. I will never watch it. Stupid. And then they're doing another one. Like, do I really need the backstory on George Clooney's Daniel Ocean character?
Absolutely not.
No.
That's the thing. Like, movies, what we don't know is often more some of the best part. The mystery around it. Like, let us have some mystery in characters. We don't need to know every single thing about every character. You're ruining it.
The best example to me is the Star Wars movies that showed from childhood to the day, what's his name, became Darth Vader.
Yeah, Anakin became.
I did not need to see that. Darth Vader was so cool. The mystery of Darth Vader is what made him so cool. And I'm not even a hardcore Star Wars fan. Mm-hmm. Darth Vader's awesome. He looks cool. The mystery is what made him cool. Who is this guy? He's just a bad guy. Mm-hmm. I don't need to see year by year, step by step, every single event that led him to becoming Darth Vader. I sure as heck don't need to see the parents of a character from a movie that came out in 2001, which is when Ocean's 11 came out. So if that movie does come out this year, which I'm not 100% sure, consider that one of my least anticipated movies.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and, I'll agree with you on that.
Otherwise, it's Madam Web. It looks laughably bad. Shame on you, Sony, Marvel spinoff, whatever you are. Good grief.
Dumpster
fire.
All right. Well, that'll conclude.
That was
our
fun.
today.
We've had a lot of fun in the last couple of podcasts.
Yeah.
We always have fun, but
next time we've already put this out there. We want to do audience questions.
I'm excited.
We'll be making. You can comment on this video on whatever services. You can go right to our social media if you would like. Ask us any question about movies. I said I want it to be about 2023 movies. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. But I just
movie questions.
But I will keep the caveat. Try to keep it simple. Keep it something for us.
Something we can answer.
Big, like, what do you think is the greatest movie of all time? That's not something we're going to answer on the podcast. But if you say, what do you think about this specific movie, or what's your favorite of this certain kind of movie, or a good example, keep it easy enough for us to answer, and we'd be happy to answer because we want to get through a bunch.
I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. So that does it for today, and we'll see you guys.
See you next week.
Next time.